Good evening, everybody. Welcome to My Connection Channel 4 and the IMeck Sports Report. I'm Joe Cullen of Race City Management Sports and Entertainment and founder of the IMeck Sports Network. I'm excited about partnering with My Connection and their My Community Connection show to bring you the IMeck Sports Report each week right here on My Connection Channel 4. The IMeck Sports Report will feature stories and interviews from the coaches and student athletes that make up the IMeck Conference. We'll bring you scores, highlights, a weekly calendar of events so you can get out and check out some student athletic action right here in the IMeck Conference. The IMeck's made up of 8 schools: Mooresville, Lake Norman, Huff, North Meck, Hopewell, Mallard Creek, West Charlotte, and Vance. So those are the schools that you'll be hearing about each week right here on the IMeck Sports Report. So we're excited tonight. Our inaugural guest is Mooresville swimming coach Heidi Williams. Coach Williams, a 3-year head coach here at Mooresville, been in the school for 5 years. She brings a lot of information about the Blue Devil swimming program to us, a program that I didn't know a lot about before sitting down. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Coach Williams right after this. Welcome back. I'm joined now Coach Heidi Williams, Mooresville swimming coach. Yes, that's right. Mooresville High School does have a swimming team. We've been sitting here talking before we came on, Coach. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. You know, our first day here on My Connection and the My Community Sports segment that IMeck Sports is doing now, and wanted to sit down with you because as we were talking, a lot of people probably don't even realize Mooresville has a swimming program. So wanted to kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to Mooresville, and then we'll talk more about the swimming program.
Okay. Yeah, we've actually had a swim team now. I think we're going on about 15 years. I've only been in charge for the last 3 years, but I've been part of the swim program for the last 5. And that's how long I've been here at Mooresville.
Okay.
I came originally from Columbus, Ohio, but I went to school in West Virginia, a small little private college called Bethany, and just new family in the Mount Pleasant area, and so I knew the area, and so when it came time for looking for a job after graduation, I decided, why not?
Let's give it a shot.
Just give it a shot. So I came down here looking for a job, and obviously, things worked out, and got the job and been here ever since.
But you were telling me that you swam and played softball in high school, played softball in college. You were a double major, didn't try to double sport in college.
Yeah, it was a little too hard juggling two different things at once. Education, history, kind of enough in itself without adding the two different sports. Had a few extra years in softball, so I ended up choosing softball as my college sport, so to say. So.
Awesome. Now, you teach history here at Mooresville High School, correct?
Yes, I do. This year I actually have freshmen, and then I also teach sophomores. I do a class we call Modern History, and then I also have, I teach World History as well.
Okay, wonderful. Now, swimming. You say we've had a program for 15 years.
Yes.
Until I started the IMeck Sports Network this year, I didn't really realize, I knew swimming was a high school sport, but I didn't realize Mooresville competed in swimming until last year or so. So tell us a little bit about the swimming program.
Well, before we used to be 3A, and so we were competing more with Iredell and some of the Rowan schools. But over the last 3 years, we actually joined the IMeck and went up to the 4A. And we're smaller. We're a smaller team. We're Mooresville, small city. So we just, we're smaller, and so I think that might be why, not too many people know, because we are such a small program. We don't have our own pool. We drive to that to practice down in Huntersville. And when it comes time for meets, we, now in the 4A, we go down to West Charlotte for all of our meets. But before in 3A, we'd be up at the Statesville Y or maybe the Salisbury Y. We would be all over. So,
but never really have home court advantage.
Exactly.
Or home pool advantage, I guess.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Home pool advantage. We have home meets where, we run things, but not really home because we're so far away. So it's hard to kind of get the word out and get spectators to come in. And I think just being so small, people just never really caught on or realized it.
But you were telling me that an average IMeck team is 60 to 80 swimmers. And, that's Huff's got, you said 80, Mallard Creek, how many, they've got a bunch of swimmers. Hopewell, even just restarting their program, still has like 30 or 40 swimmers. Mooresville's competing at the conference level with 18 athletes. That's men's and women.
Yes.
So,
yeah, the numbers when you judge, and I mean the IMeck schools like you mentioned, like Huff and Mallard Creek, and even Lake Norman, they have bigger squads. So when you look at the competition, I'm holding a team, boys and girls, 6 boys, 12 girls of 18 people. And we're competing in the IMeck Conference, which is a great conference to be a part of. It's very competitive, and it really pushes the kids. But, as far as numbers are concerned, we're definitely a
little bit of a disadvantage. So now how many different events do swimming meets in high school consist of?
There's 22 total. There's 11 events for girls and 11 events for boys. So there's 22 total. And the way meets work out is the girl event goes, then the boy event goes, and they just alternate per event.
So 11 events, but at least with girls you've got 12 swimmers, so in theory you could cover all 12 events.
Yes.
In theory.
In theory.
With the boys, that's some doubling up to get all 11.
Yeah, there's a lot of doubling up, and even with the girls, in theory it sounds good, but some of the events like the individual medley where they're doing back and fly and breast and then free, and then you have the 100 fly, and so sometimes even though in theory it sounds good, well I have enough swimmers to cover, but if I don't have somebody that can swim a butterfly or a breaststroke, then I don't have that event.
Exactly.
And so also here in Mooresville, we don't really have any year-round swimmers that swim with like your Nomads or your MAC club teams. And because of that, sometimes they're entering in as freshmen and say, I want to do swim, which is great. And we work with them and I work with them and I get to teach them those basics. But sometimes, not having that longevity behind their career, they might not be the best butterflyer out there. So sometimes I have to pull people from some of those events. So sometimes I can't even fill an event because I might not have somebody that might have the know-how or the stamina.
Well, that's understandable. In looking at your roster this year, you do have an older team, but you did pick up a couple young guys, one of which is one of those year-round swimmers that we haven't had in the past here, that's actually set some very good personal best as well as a bunch of school records so far this year.
Yes. Yeah, we actually have two. I have two freshmen I picked up that are year-round swimmers. They swim
So
with
both
the
of
men.
them.
There's two of them.
Okay.
John Donaldson and Adrian Jardine, they're my year-round swimmers. They're freshmen. So they swim year-round, and they both have set school records on the boys' team. Looking at the 11 events, if I remember correctly, they've already set 7 of them.
I thought it was 7 or it was 6 or 7. I remember looking at the stats going, holy cow, those guys are only freshmen.
Yeah, they've already reset school records for, I want to say 7 of the events. And, you know, some of them are the individual events, but then they're also part of the relays that have set the record. So they've been a part of a lot of our success this year with the team and with our older swimmers. And how hard they've worked over the last few years, and some of the senior leadership and some of the juniors on the team, them with their leadership and, you know, confidence and boosts and, you know, their go-getting attitudes kind of really help even bring them up to a whole new level. And so it's a very nice dynamic that we have.
That's wonderful. I mean, because those kids are pushing your older ones, and your older ones are encouraging and trying to get there. Tell us a little bit, like I said, a lot of viewers may not know about swimming other than you see it in the Olympics every 4 years. You know, that's unfortunately in the Carolinas and even in the Midwest, you know, swimming isn't a year-round thing as it is southern or on the West Coast and some of those places. So tell us how individual events and then the entire events are scored, so that when people see on the IMeck site, you know, this was a swimming meet and here's the scores and how they have a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah. When it comes to scores, it really depends on how many teams are part of the event, the meet. You know, if it's just a dual meet, which means it's just, you know, you and another team, relays are, you know, generally doubled than individual events, but you might go off of a scale of, you know, depending on how many lanes, if you have 8 lanes or 6 lanes and how many of them are actually going to be used, where it's just 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, you know, or then it's doubled for relays. Whereas most of our IMeck meets, like in our conference meets throughout the season, there's generally 3 or 4 teams at a meet. So generally we have a quad meet. So at quad meets, you do 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then relays again are doubled. So you have your 18, you know, 16 and 14.
So the highest points are first, lowest points are last. So it's not like golf. You don't want the low score, you want the high score.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming in first, you'll definitely get more points. And
so if you see a 200 and you see a 50, the 200's the good score.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
The higher the score, the better. The more points you've accumulated throughout the meet.
so for Mooresville, your goal isn't necessarily then with only 18 swimmers versus, you know, 50, 60, 80 swimmers, isn't to necessarily win meets, but it's to have individuals win events.
Exactly. When I took over, you know, when the year I took over as head coach 3 years ago was the first year we were in 4A in the IMeck.
Hi, welcome. Here you go.
Yeah, I was like, here, have this with you. You know, which I took it head on, but I made it very clear from the get-go with my team, with my philosophy as a coach, that as long as you're out there doing it your best and you're giving it your all, that's all I'm ever going to ask of you. So we really focus on personal best. You know, are we getting those qualifying times for regionals as individuals, as a relay, as a team? And, you know, how are we doing as setting our own records? And that's my main focus, because with the disadvantage in numbers and not having people swim events, I'm not getting the 200, 300 scores at the end of the meet, which I'm okay with and my team's okay with. And they just know that as long as we're hitting our personal best, that's all that I'm caring about. And as long as we're pushing to take ourselves to that next level individually and as a team, then that's all we can focus on is the here and now and work forward to making.
Well, that's awesome, and it pushes the kids, gives them something to strive for. You mentioned something that right there that I wanted to ask you about, regional, you know, qualifying times. So can you kind of explain how those qualifying times work?
Yeah, at the end of each year, you know, they take a look at the state times and where they were there, and what generally ends up happening is the state sets the standards. And what they basically do is they outline automatic times, and if you have an automatic time in whatever event 1 to 11, you know, relay or individual, then you're going to regionals and you're going to swim. And then there's a consideration time. and there's a gap from automatic to consideration. And it can be, depending anywhere, like a minute gap, minute and a half, depending on the event, like when you get into your more freestyle events, like your sprints, like your 50 free or your 100 free, the consideration automatic is a much smaller of a gap.
It could be 15 seconds.
Yeah, but your longer standard events like our 500, which is the longest length that we do in high school, which is 20 laps, that's about a minute and a half gap from consideration to automatic.
But that's the equivalent of 15 seconds in the 50.
Exactly. So it kind of evens out depending on the event and what's being swam. So those times are set out. So they know here's the qualifying times. Our goal every year is not just we're going to do well conference. We're always looking at regionals, and then once we get into closer to conference, okay, now we got to push. Now we're going to try to reach that goal of states, and we always try to look ahead.
Now, from regionals to state. Is that automatic qualifying, or you have to compete certain level at regional to be able to
Yes, at regionals, in the 4A, there's 4A West, Central, and East. And in the 4A conference, the top 8 go. So at regionals, it's just a timed finals. And what they end up doing is, after all the events and they have the times, everything is seeded, and your top 8 qualifiers are in.
Okay.
And so the top 8 in every event. So you have 11 events, top 8 from West, Central, and East, and they come together to make up the states.
Wonderful. Well, you shared with me that, as we were talking, as we were getting ready, that you were going to host regionals. But before that, tell everybody the conference meet's coming up here pretty close.
Yes. Conference meet is a week from Saturday. It's the 21st.
Okay.
And it's at, I want to say it's at 6:30. I'm pretty confident it's 6:30 at the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center down off Martin Luther King Boulevard downtown.
Okay.
And that'll be everybody from the conference. So, us, Mallard Creek, Vance, West Charlotte.
Now, do all 8 teams in the conference have a swim team?
Yes.
Okay.
All 8 teams have them, even if it is just a few swimmers. All teams have a team that they can equip to come and compete. And so conference is that Saturday, and the diving conference is actually going to be Thursday, the 19th.
Okay.
So diving conference is Thursday, and then swim conference is that Saturday.
We have a big diving team, I heard.
We do. We have one diver. It's the first diver that we've had. So I'm ecstatic about it. I'm learning as I go with it. I kind of know diving because I've been around swim enough. I just don't know necessarily the technicalities of your hand should have been
Here
waving, but you said goodbye, or so I don't know all of that. But we're coming around, and it's great. One diver, and she's been doing great. Right now, she's going to regionals. Top 16 divers in the region go, and she's 11th right now.
Wonderful.
So I'm hoping that maybe she can push through and come top 8
Now,
for state.
Who is this?
The diver Ashley Raybuck. She's a sophomore.
Okay.
And she's only been doing it for a few years, and
Wow.
which is great because when you actually just look at our conference of the IMeck, there's her and then 3 Huff girls, and but it's great to finally have a diver to kind of represent us and use her. So hopefully we can recruit
Well, and then to be
some more.
ranked 11th in the region, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm happy about it, and we talked the other day, and I always try to see her, give her a pep talk because she has her own private coach that helps her along with her dives, and so I always try to catch her during the day and see her and like, hey, remember you're 11th, like let's work on this, like do good, and
Wonderful.
so she's excited about it. She can't wait for conference and regionals, and hopefully we can get her to move up just a couple of slots.
That'll be good. Well, and then Mooresville will actually be the host school for regionals this year. So
Yes.
that's a big step for a school that has a small swim program and really probably small parent involvement, which it takes a lot of bodies to host a regional event.
Yes. Even though we're a small team, the one thing I have to say, I have the best parents. It's not just mom or maybe a dad. Both parents are there. They're, what can I do? What do you need me for? And I love that.
Awesome.
And not only that, but having a great staff support here at Mooresville, just the community that we have and the sense of family. But we are hosting regionals, and it was thrown around to a couple different schools, and Mooresville got it, and I'm ecstatic about it. And even though I'm the only coach, I don't have an assistant, but I got great support from my administration. Mike Royal's been great. Our AD, Barkley Marsh, he's been great. We met today and okay, what do we need to do? Like, let's get on this.
We need to pray.
And I got staff volunteers, the parents are there, and numbers. There's just a few things that technicalities like that we just need to work through, and but I'm ecstatic about it. I feel very honored that we were even just one of the schools considered, let alone the school that got it. And I'm happy about it, and I'm thrilled, and it's going to be a lot of work, but I can't wait to do it and show everybody kind of like what we're about, Mooresville. Here's our program, here's our parents, here's our teachers and coaches that have just come out to volunteer their time to help, and just kind of have them feel that Blue Devil pride that we have. And I'm ecstatic about it. I'm thrilled about it. Yeah, I know, you can't tell.
There's no energy at all.
There's no energy. I'm really happy about it, and I can't wait for regionals just to kind of put it together and really see what it's about, because you host a meet, but regional is kind of like hosting a meet on steroids. It's a whole new level, because a meet, like I said, there's maybe only 4 teams. Conference, there's just the 8. Where regionals, in the Western, we're dealing with 27 teams. So it's a whole new level of organization. So
well, we wish you the best of luck with that. We thank you for taking time today.
Yeah.
I know you're busy. This afternoon. We're almost here at the end of the school day. Probably heard announcements going on while we were talking, but we appreciate you for staying tuned with us. Come out, support the Blue Devil swimming team. I know coaches appreciate it. The swimmers would. You're at the MAC in Huntersville.
Yes.
Most of the time, or either West Charlotte for conference meets. You can check the IMeck Sports website for more information about the swimming program. Click on the Mooresville Swimming tab. You'll get more information. But Coach, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.